Welcome to the Jaybe show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here this Sunday afternoon. Easy like Sunday morning. All right, just to let you guys know, the Jaybe show is every single Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can also find me here on RBN on Thursdays for the Savvy and Jaybe show. And you can find me on my own channel on the Jaybe Font channel every single Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. If you guys have not already, go ahead and give us a like. This helps us out. So we appreciate it very much. This helps us to reach more people so that we're able to inform and inspire and encourage. So thank you very much for that. Also, if you have not already, you guys can join our mailing list at revolutionaryblackout.substack.com. This gives you email notifications whenever we go live or upload any clips. So you guys will see that there as well. So you're well informed of whenever that happens. Also, if you have any stories that you would like to submit, any encouraging words, any information you like to give to us, then you guys can go to revolutionaryblackout@outlook.com. That is our email so that you guys can inform us and get in contact with us. So thank you very much. Serious inquiries only, please. Thank you. All right. Now, what I'm going to do here is, like always, I'm going to say hello to everybody that's in the chat, and then we will get into our stories. So first of all, I want to say hello to people in the chat. First off is Devin Watts coming in saying, "Hi, JB. It is good to see you and everyone. By the way, the woman who was martyred, she graduated from the school I go to earlier this year. A lot of my friends knew her well." I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to star this. I'm going to come back to this because I want to talk to you about that as well, Devin. If you can give me a little bit more information, that will also be helpful, just from what you've heard from your other classmates around as well, because I think I want to humanize her as much as possible. So thank you very much. We have Jacqueline coming in and saying, "Hey, everyone, just listening today. Good to hear from you, Jacqueline. And it is always nice to see that orange J there. It's really nice to have your presence here. So even if you're just listening, welcome. Janice coming in and saying, "Hi, all." Janice, good to see you as well. On the Twitter side, we have Human Rights for All. It says, "Hi, JB Font." Hello, Human Rights for All. Nice to have you in here as well. We have Steve coming in saying, "Hello, everybody." Steve the Wolf Brandt coming in. All right. Let me see here. We have Mouse coming in saying, "Sweet Sunday, everybody." Sweet Sunday to you, Mouse. CBC Voter coming in saying, "Happy Sunday at JB. Nice to see you in here." We have Zoe coming in saying, "Good afternoon, James. Loving the tie. Looks like a star being born." It kind of does look like a nebula a little bit, right? It looks like a little bit like a nebula. I like it. Yeah, it's one of my favorite ties. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. We have Chris coming in saying, "Hey, JB, Kroger is indeed a monopoly." Oh boy, we're going to get into that because I do not like monopolies. I never actually truly played the game Monopoly. Like, I tried to play it, but we never actually looked at the rules because, we were little kids and we were just, looking at the pictures and stuff, so I never actually got the chance to play Monopoly. But one of the things I did learn was that the person who created Monopoly actually created it to show the inherent flaws in capitalism. So when people talk about, "Oh man, me and my family played Monopoly, and then after we played Monopoly that night, we didn't talk to each other for a week. We got so pissed off and angry at each other." Baby, that's capitalism. That's how it works. You ever wonder why we're all so divided right now? How everybody just doesn't want to be in contact with each other? Like how communities are broken apart? Capitalism. Anyway, so yeah, interesting how that was created. RIP Rafael Alarir says, "Hi, JB. Good to see you in here as well." Corbett Ravenscraft says, "Forehead kisses to you, JB. Mwah! Forehead kisses to all y'all too." Absolutely. We got Robbie Burns coming in saying, "Sup to all these beautiful people in the chat." Yes, Absolutely. All right. And so now we're going to get into the show. Get into the show. Oh. All right. What in the hell is inside this tea? I have no idea. But you know what? Instead of using like the dried powdered, instead of using dried powdered ginger that I typically put, I have fresh ginger in the house. And so I grated it and I added into my tea and let it steep. And then I added black tea, lemon, and honey. And I used the raw, unfiltered honey, the Florida raw, unfiltered honey, the kind that comes in the orange bottle. And I added it in here. Oh, you getting Jaybe today, baby. All right. Let's get into it. We'll do two more. Terry Hinton, good to see you. Terry's all up in the chat. All right. And then this one as well. Devin says, I think I saw her at the camping we did at the school. From what I've heard, she was a very kind person. Also protested for Standing Rock and Black Lives Matter. She was in favor of escalation. Okay, I'm going to start this one too, because I want to come back to this. Okay. Thank you, Devin. You are invaluable in your commentary. Appreciate it. Now, what are we talking about today? We're going to be talking about a U.S. citizen martyred because of Israel. That's why the morally repugnant, disgusting, genocidal maniac Benjamin Netanyahu is in there. And then we're going to be talking about Kroger trying to do the monopolization, trying to do the capitalism game. This is also a very interesting story that I want to get into as well, because those of us who are consumers and workers within this country, we need to be abreast of what these corporations, these corporate parasites are doing to us and around us. So let's get it. I'm going to start with the heavy story first, because I do not want you guys walking away feeling despondent and depressed. Okay. So that's why I'm going to cover the heavy story first, because it's tough. But I always want to end my shows on a brighter note. And I don't want you, look, you are going to find this news depressing. It is what it is. However, number one, this type of news is very important so that you know what the empire and its cohorts are doing. Number two, I want you to take that anger and I want you to take the rage and I want you to channel it in a way that pushes us forward as a society for the good of mankind and this planet. And that's why I feel that the need to cover stories like this, to cover stories of police brutality, because I want us to use our anger and direct it into the right way, right? This is why we talk about doing mutual aid. This is why we talk about organizing. Because the thing is like that fire that you feel once you hear this story, I want you to take that fire and channel it into something positive and useful for your community. And when I say community, I'm not just talking about your local community. I'm talking about the world community. Okay? So Israel murdered a U.S. citizen. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They killed one of our fellow citizens on Friday. Let's get into it, because this story really, honestly, should be all headlines all over the nation, but it's not. Let's get into it. So And we also got to debunk the pro-Western narrative that's always done in corporate media, right? From the AP, it says Israeli soldiers fatally shot an American woman at the West Bank protest, a witness says. It should say Israeli soldiers murder an American citizen or American woman at the West Bank protest. But they said fatally shot, like, oh my God, it was an accident. Witnesses on the ground say otherwise. And we'll be hearing from a witness as well. But let's get what the Western narrative spins it, and then we'll get into how most likely it actually happened. So, this is out of Nablus from the West Bank. By the way, before I start, Hamas is not in the West Bank. Hamas is in Gaza. The West Bank, separate area, right? West Bank is further north. Hamas is not in the West Bank. So for something like this to happen, they cannot make the excuse, but Hamas. They can't. There is absolutely no excuse for this murder. Murder. I'm not mincing my words here, right? Because we got to call a thing for the people. And plus, not necessarily in danger from the tube gods when I say things like this, because some things you got to be careful with. All right, so it says Israeli soldiers killed an American woman demonstrating against settlements in the West Bank on Friday, according to a witness who said she was shot while posing no threat to Israeli forces and during a moment of calm after clashes earlier in the afternoon. Two Palestinian doctors said 26-year-old Aysenur, I want to make sure I don't get her name wrong, Eygi Aysenur of Seattle was shot in the head. Hold up. Shot in the head. That's an execution. That wasn't just, oh, they were shot. No, that was a murder. A body shot could be seen as an accident. A shot in the leg could be seen as an accident, right? It is, from what I heard from actual police, or former police, I should say, is that the goal is to always go for center mass, right? Because it is harder to shoot this as a target, any of your limbs as a target, because it's harder to get. Center mass is where it is taught to law enforcement, and I'm pretty sure it's taught also to soldiers, because you can take the person down quickly, center mass, easier to target, right? This part is not as easy. And the fact is that if you actually are aiming for this target has to be, it's a tougher target. Meaning you have to intentionally hit the person here. That was a murder. I said what I said. Now, let's continue. It says the U.S. government confirmed Eygi's death, but did not say whether the recent graduate at the University of Washington, who is also a Turkish citizen, had been shot by Israeli troops. The White House said that it was deeply disturbed by the killing of the U.S. citizen and called on Israel to investigate what happened. Called on Israel to investigate what happened? Wait, they're the ones who committed the murder, but you want them to investigate their own crime? That's like asking Harvey Weinstein to investigate his own sexual assault allegations. The hell? Oh my gosh. These guys are wicked. Okay. The Israeli military said it was looking into reports that troops had killed a foreign national while firing at an instigator of violent activity in area of the protest. It says the killing came amid a surge of violence in the West Bank since the Israel-Hamas war began in October, with increasing Israeli raids, attacks by Palestinian militants on Israelis, attack by Israeli settlers on Palestinians, and heavier military crackdown on Palestinian protests. More than 690 Palestinians have been killed, according to Palestinian health officials. Hang on, let me say this. They said more than 690 Palestinians have been killed, according to Palestinian health records. How many Israelis have been killed? They don't say. You want to know why they don't say? Because then you would see the disproportionate number of Palestinians killed compared to Israelis. This reminds me of the Palestinian March to Return. If you guys have not already, I recommend that you watch Gaza Fights for Freedom by Abby Martin. I think Abby Martin and Dan Cohen. I think they directed and produced that documentary. And then all you got to do is just type in Google Gaza Fights for Freedom. It'll take you straight to the website. You can watch it absolutely free. I highly recommend that you watch it. There are Palestinians that are peacefully protesting, going to the fence to protest so that they can return back to their homes that was stolen from Israelis. And what do? Snipers are picking off Palestinians, shooting them indiscriminately as they're trying to peacefully protest. That's what this reminds me of. It says also Friday, Israeli troops shot and killed a 13-year-old Palestinian girl, Ben Alaboum, in her village outside the West Bank town of Nablus, Palestinian health officials say. Was this 13-year-old Palestinian girl, Little Miss Bana, was she Hamas? What danger was she? 13 years old? So not only did you kill a 26-year-old American citizen, but you also killed a 13-year-old girl? A baby? You killed a... The Israeli military said on Saturday that an initial inquiry indicates security forces have been deployed to disperse a riot involving Palestinian and Israeli civilians that included mutual rock hurling. The security forces have fired shots in the air. There's a report was received regarding a Palestinian girl who was killed by shots in the area. The incident is under review. Eygi, a volunteer with the activist group International Solidarity Movement, was attending a weekly demonstration against settlement expansion that have been held for years and has often brought Israeli crackdowns and protesters stone throwing. Says Jonathan Pollock, an Israeli participating in Friday's protest, said that the shooting occurred shortly after dozens of Palestinians and international activists had held a communal prayer on the hillside outside of the northern West Bank town of Beta, overlooking the Israeli settlement of Eviatar. Soldiers surrounding the prayer. Soldiers surrounding the prayer, and clashes soon broke out, with Palestinians throwing stones and troops firing tear gas and live ammunition. Let me ask you this. According to international law, is throwing stones, is that considered to be a war crime? No, you're just throwing stones. But did you know tear gas is actually considered to be a war crime? Because that's chemical warfare. And then now they're shooting live rounds into the crowd. Says the protests and activists retreated and clashed subdued. He then watched as two soldiers on the roof of a nearby home trained a gun in the group's direction and fired. He said he saw Eygi laying on the ground next to an olive tree, bleeding to death. Two doctors confirmed Eygi was shot in the head. Dr. Ward Basalat, who administered first aid at the scene, and Dr. Fode Nafa, director of the Rafidia Hospital in Nablus, where she was taken. ISM said 17 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces at the weekly beta protests since March of 2020. A month ago, an American, Armando Cizan, was shot in the leg by Israeli forces, he said, as he tried to flee tear gas and live fire. At the University of Washington, where Eygi recently graduated with a degree in psychology, Arya Fani, a professor in Middle Eastern languages and cultures, recalled Eygi's activism earlier in the year at a pro-Palestinian encampment and remembered her as someone with a gift for listening to others. Fani said that she tried to talk to Eygi out of going to the West Bank, but that she told him she needed to bear witness for the sake of her own humanity. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said that the U.S. was intensely focused on determining what happened and that we will draw necessary conclusions and consequences from that. Of course, Butcher Blinken would say something like that. It's funny how they're not willing to listen to the Palestinians, but they're willing to take the IOF at their own word. You have a dead U.S. citizen, and how big of a story is this in corporate media? Shouldn't this be major? Shouldn't her face be everywhere you see? Like, oh my God, Israel literally killed one of our own. There's precedence for this, by the way, and I'll get into that in a second. In a post on X, the Turkish Foreign Ministry condemned this murder carried out by the Israeli government. Turkey will work to ensure that those who killed our citizen is brought to justice. Says human rights groups say Israeli soldiers who kill Palestinians on their foreign supporters rarely are held to account. The Israeli military says it investigates such instances and takes action if there's criminal wrongdoing. Wait, are they going to take action against the IOF forces that were sexually assaulting Palestinian prisoners? If they're not going to take actual action against sexual assault by their soldiers, what makes you think that they're going to take actual action against snipers who are picking apart Palestinians and Palestinian supporters? Do you actually believe that? Because I sure as hell don't. At least 3 activists from the International Solidarity Movement have been killed since 2000. 2 of them were killed in Gaza in 2003. American Rachel Corrie was crushed to death as she tried to block an Israeli military bulldozer from demolishing a Palestinian home. About a month later, British citizen Tom Herndal was shot in the head by an Israeli soldier. ISM activists often place themselves between Israeli forces and Palestinians to try to stop the Israeli military from carrying out operations. Here's the thing, because unfortunately, they think that, well, I'm an American citizen or I'm a British citizen, so therefore they wouldn't harm me. Baby, they don't care. And there's precedent for that. There's precedent for Israel harming American citizens. And I'll get to that right when I'm done with this, but there is definitely precedent. Does the Israeli military rule Corrie's death as an accident, a conclusion widely rejected by rights groups? The soldier who killed Herndal was sentenced to 11 and a half years in prison and was released after serving just over half of it. Shireen Abdul Akla, a Palestinian-American journalist with Al Jazeera News Network, was shot to death covering an Israeli raid in the West Bank in 2022. I remember Nick actually covering this. The United States concluded an Israeli soldier likely killed her by mistake, and Israel acknowledged that it was high probability, but not certain, and ruled out the criminal investigation. Al Jazeera accuses troops of intentionally killing her. A handful of Americans have been killed in the West Bank since the Israel-Hamas war began, apparently by Israeli fire. Now, hang on. By the way, I know we've said this many times, but this is not a war, it's a genocide. A war would denote that there's 2 equal and opposing forces. The Palestinian resistance is not a military. They do not have a military. They do not have tanks. They do not have fighter jets. They do not have, Humvees and all these different things. They do not have these big, huge rocket launchers. They don't have these things. Yet you have a nuclear military power that's fighting them. It's not a war. It's a genocide. In Gaza, 1,200 Israelis killed, compared to, by estimates from The Lancet, 180,000. That's a ratio to 100 to 1. It's not equal. Chris Van Hollen, U.S. Senator of Maryland, said President Joe Biden's administration had not done enough to pursue justice and accountability for Khadr and Abdel Jabbar. He said it must use American influence to demand prosecution of those responsible against harmful citizens. So now that was from basically corporate media influence. I want to now go to what people have said on the ground and exactly what happened. So first, let's go here. Here is Antony Blinken and his grimy ass on this American citizen that was murdered by Israel.
On Friday, 26-year-old Turkish-American peace activist Aysenur Eygi was shot in the head by Israeli forces after protesting illegal settlement expansion in occupied Beita. This comes just weeks after Israeli forces shot another American activist near Beita. Despite witnesses saying the shot was taken to kill, the U.S. State Department said they are gathering more information about her death.
We deplore this tragic loss. Now, the most important thing to do is to gather the facts And that's exactly what we're in the process of doing. And we are intensely focused on getting those facts. And any actions that we take are driven by the facts. So first things first, let's find out exactly what happened. We have more info. We'll share it, make it available, and as necessary, we'll act on it.
But if past cases can tell us anything, the wait for answers may be long and unsuccessful. After the death of Israeli-American captive Hirsch Goldberg Polin in Gaza last week, the US State Department claimed to prioritize bringing to justice those responsible for the death of American citizens. But how true is this? After the killing of 23-year-old American activist Rachel Corrie by an Israeli bulldozer in 2003, the US left the investigation to an Israeli court, which dismissed the case and forced her family to pay full legal costs. Shireen Abu Akleh, a Palestinian-American Al Jazeera presenter, was shot in the neck by an Israeli sniper in 2022. CNN, Washington Post, and the New York Times investigations all indicated Israeli responsibility. The US called her killing the result of tragic circumstances and ended the inquiry. But Rachel...
Tragic circumstances? Tragic circumstances? It was a headshot. It was a headshot. That's not tragic circumstances. I'm sorry. That's a bunch of bullshit. Tragic circumstances, my ass. My God, these people. No backbone whatsoever against the Israeli government. None. Absolutely. They're shaking their boots whenever anybody tries to hold the Zionists accountable for their crimes against people. Even their own citizens. And you mean to tell me that the representatives of this country are going to cower before Zionists? When people say, oh my God, Zionists have control, but this is what they're talking about. And make no mistake, because this wouldn't be just coming out of a Biden-Harris administration. Oh, you don't think responses like this won't happen under a Trump-Vance administration? Hell yeah, it would. Oh my God, we're America first. Unless one of your own gets shot by Israel. All of you are morally repugnant people. Every single person in our government is morally repugnant, disgusting human beings that would allow this to happen. 180,000 Palestinians. And what do you expect? These are the same people that are now clapping for the fact that Dick Cheney is now endorsing Kamala Harris, the same dude that had a hand in killing over 1 million Iraqis. 1 million. And you mean to tell me that, oh, well, Trump will be worse? Get the hell out of here, man. Two cheeks on the same ass, and in the middle, you got nothing but shit. That's it. And you mean to tell me that you're going to sit there and then you're going to try to make excuses for an American citizen being murdered? And if this doesn't piss you off, there's something wrong with you. They killed a journalist, an American journalist.
Rachel and Shireen are only two of many American citizens killed by Israeli forces without justice. The US also chose not to sanction the Israeli army unit responsible for the death of 78-year-old Omar Assad in custody. Soldiers blindfolded, bound, and gagged Omar before leaving him unresponsive outside without medical care, triggering a stress-induced heart attack. The troops were cleared of all charges. The families of several other Palestinian Americans, often teenagers shot in the head by Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank, are still waiting for answers. Israeli authorities typically claim the victims, some as young as 14, had attacked them, and the US requests no further information. These cases have much in common. Most victims appear to have been deliberately killed, the soldiers were never charged, and their families seemingly forgotten by the US government. The chances of justice are slim. Israeli soldiers are prosecuted for offenses against Palestinians in less than 1% of cases, according to Israeli rights group Yesh Din. While families wait for answers that may never come, people have increasingly asked, are the deaths of all American citizens treated the same? Or are some citizens more equal than others?
This this is not the first. There's precedents for this. The precedence for this has happened years ago. And I want to share this. So this happened around 50 years ago. Have you ever heard of the USS Liberty? So let me share this. Let me see. All right, so let me go here. Yeah, here we are. That's what I was looking for. All right. So sorry about that. I think this is no. Where'd it go? Sorry, guys. I have it. Here we go. All right, so we're gonna hear from an actual soldier. Soldier that was on the USS Liberty. He's going to recount what he went through, and then I also have another one. So if you guys have not heard about the USS Liberty, then here are their experiences. And these are American soldiers, American service members that were attacked by Israel.
I'm alive from the USS Liberty. I served on that ship in 1967 when it was attacked by the Israelis, supposedly by accident.
Now, he said in 1967, guys, remember, 1967 is when another conflict in occupied Palestine happened again. So keep that in mind. But Israel attacked a U.S. vessel. Let's continue.
In neutral waters off the Sinai Peninsula, 34 of my crewmen were killed and 171 wounded. It's now 50 years later. I'm still alive, and it's Memorial Day, and I always think about the men who died, and I still see some of the crewmen. We were attacked by Mirage jets. They strafed us and dropped napalm. And there was 4 torpedo boats, Israeli torpedo boats, circling us, and they fired 5 torpedoes total. 1 hit. We had a hole in the side of the ship, 50 feet by 30 feet roughly. We had, for weapons on our ship, 50 caliber machine guns, 2 forward and 2 midship. All the men in those gun mounts were killed. And the torpedo hit in the communication spaces, and many men died wounded from there, supposedly by an accident. I don't believe it was an accident. We intercepted a lot of messages that Israel had sent, and some that were highly classified at the time, and were sent further to our government, who in turn acted or didn't act on what we said. And I know the Israelis, this is my opinion, planned the attack on us, and they know it too. And I believe our government knows it too. So if anybody wants to do anything about it, you know right where I live. And if not, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
So when it comes to Israel harming American citizens, it's happened before. And what do your representatives actually do about it? Nothing. See how much they actually care? America first. Where? Where? I don't see it. Back in 1967, y'all weren't America first when Israel actually attacked US's liberty. America first, my ass. You guys don't care about us. Let me share this with y'all too, because this is also very important.
My name is Commander David Lewis. I was a research officer on board the USS Liberty at the time of the Israeli attack. As research officer, I had several other supply types, radioman and electronics technician. My total complement was 195 out of the crew of 295. The other 100 people on board the ship were the ship drivers who did a superb job. Unfortunately, there were so few of them, I volunteered my officers to stand deck watch with them. We learned how to control the ship as well. During the attack, I was blessed with a temporary bulkhead that wrapped itself around me and covered me with a 30-year supply of burnt Navy paint. But other than losing a couple eardrums, I was blessed. Virtually everybody within 20, 25 feet of me was killed instantly. After I was brought up on deck, the next day, the helicopters came to carry us to America. I was wrapped from head to toe, put in a basket, and hauled into the helicopter. And being totally covered, the crewman, the foreman that was taking care of me, didn't know which end was up, and he sat on my face the entire trip. All I could think of was what an ignominious way to die after having survived the torpedo. I was blue when they took me out, but I made it work. After they lanced my eyelids open so I could see, I was ordered to report to Rear Admiral Geist, who was the carrier division commander for the Saratoga and the American. He apparently had pangs of conscience for having had to do what he was ordered to do. And he told me he wanted somebody to know what had really happened, but that he swore me to secrecy for the duration of his life. What he told me was that he launched aircraft to come to our defense, and Robert McNamara recalled it. We were in a nuclear weapons drill at the time, and he thought some idiot in Washington suspected that he had launched nuclear weapons to come to the assistance of the Americans. So he reconfigured a flight of aircraft that were incapable of carrying nuclear weapons, and he relaunched it, and again notified via Criticom the White House and McNamara. And McNamara again ordered the aircraft recalled. Admiral Geist challenged the order. He said, Americans are being killed, and we need to go to their assistance. At that point, Lyndon Johnson came on the line. He said, I don't give a damn if the ship sinks and all the Americans are killed. I will not embarrass my allies. Well, that was 3 hours before he's notified who the allies were.
Now, let me say this. Lyndon Johnson didn't give a shit about American lives either. LBJ didn't care. See the trend coming here? Because Harris wouldn't care. Trump wouldn't care. Biden sure as hell doesn't care. Obama doesn't care. Bush doesn't care. Clinton doesn't care. They don't care. This is why when people talk about, oh, well, we got to vote either Democrat or Republican. You guys are talking about people who don't care about you. You guys are talking about people who don't give a shit about you. And yet, oh, well, harm reduction. What? Because the thing is that every single time we talk about harm reduction, then next thing you know, we get harmed even further. What harm reduction with this American citizen that's 26 years old? What harm reduction was it for her? What harm reduction was it for Shireen? There was none. And it's not that they're afraid to say anything to Netanyahu. They're not afraid. It is that they are obeying their masters, and their masters tell them, you better not say anything to Benjamin, Bibi, whatever the fuck his name is. You better not say anything to him. You better not stop this. You know why? Because they want the liquefied natural gas underneath Gaza. They want that oil off the coast of the Gaza and the West Bank. That's why. They want to build the Ben Gurion Canal so that they can be able to actually compete with the Suez Canal. It's all about money, baby. That's always what it's been about. And if you are a Zionist, do you know that you're being used to carry out genocide in this part of the world against an indigenous people? Yes, an indigenous people. You're carrying it out, right? They're forcing you into conscription so that you lay down your life against an indigenous people just so that the people at the top can actually have more resources and money. And it was never about you. It was never about Judaism. It was never about your people. It is always about money. When Zionists actually originally created this push to go to Israel, you know that the people in Britain, they didn't give a shit about y'all. They were anti-Semitic. They wanted you guys to get the hell out of England. They wanted you guys to get the hell out of the UK because they didn't want you there. That's the whole reason why. You're putting your lives on the line in order to take land away from another people. Are you tired of being used? Are you? Are you tired of being used by these parasites? This is why a lot of your young ones in Israel, they're saying, lock me up. I'm not going to be complicit in the genocide. This is why a lot of your young people are now saying, nope, we're not doing it. I will not be complicit in extermination of a people that have been here more longer than me and my grandparents and my great-grandparents have ever been. Stop believing the lies that Theodore Herzl told you. Stop believing the lies that Ben Gurion told you or Benjamin Netanyahu. Stop believing those lies. Because once you start doing the research, then guess what? Your whole entire belief system comes crumbling down. Because the truth, you know the truth. Just like the United States stole this land from the indigenous, they're doing the exact same thing in Palestine, occupied Palestine. And they're killing American citizens to do it. Just like they did back in 1967. Sorry.
We were in a nuclear weapons drill at the time, and he thought some idiot in Washington suspected that he had launched nuclear weapons to come to the assistance of the Americans. So he reconfigured a flight of aircraft that were incapable of carrying nuclear weapons, and he relaunched it, and again notified via Credicom the White House and McNamara. And McNamara again ordered the aircraft recalled. Admiral Geist challenged the order. He said, Americans are being killed and we need to go to their assistance. At that point, Lyndon Johnson came on the line. He said, I don't give a damn if the ship sinks and all the Americans are killed. I will not embarrass my allies. Well, that was 3 hours before he's notified who the allies were. My name.
Yet we're supposed to just accept their deaths and not really challenge it, or let the Israelis go ahead and investigate it. Is that what we're supposed to do? Here's from the CIA. CIA actually has top secret. It is now declassified about what happened on the USS Liberty. Intelligence memorandum, the Israeli attack on the USS Liberty. So, June 13th, 1967. So, it says the Israeli attack on the USS Liberty, the U.S. Naval Technician Research Ship Liberty was attacked by Israeli aircraft and torpedo boats off the Sinai Peninsula on the 8th of June. The following account of the circumstances of attack have been compiled from all available sources. So, let's go. It says 1. The Liberty reported at 9:50 a.m. on 8th of June that it had been orbited by 2 Delta Wing jet fighters, presumably Israeli Mirages. At 3:05 p.m., the Liberty was staffed by unidentified jet aircraft. The Liberty was apparently not able to establish communications with other units of the U.S. Sixth Fleet during the air attack. And the first information available to the U.S. commanders was after the subsequent attack by unidentified torpedo boats, which occurred at 3:25 p.m. It says at 4:11 p.m., the U.S. Commander-Chief Europe notified the National Military Command Center in Washington that the Liberty was under attack and was listening to starboard after being struck by a torpedo. The commander of the U.S. Sixth Fleet declared the attacking units hostile and sent attack aircraft from the carriers America and Saratoga to protect the Liberty. A good part of the ship's communications equipment was destroyed by the crew during the attack, but emergency communications was soon established with the Saratoga. And with naval communications station in Greece, Because the tenseness of the situation and the communications delays, the initial reports from the Liberty were sketchy and somewhat confusing. According to these reports, however, the sequence of events took place as follows. The ship was attacked at 3:05 p.m. by unidentified jet fighters, believed to be Israeli, at positions to 31 to 35 degrees north and 33 to 29 degrees east. 6 staffing runs were made by the jets. 20 minutes later, 3 torpedo boats closed at high speed and 2 of them launched torpedoes after first circling the Liberty. 1 torpedo passed astern and the other struck by starboard side on the ship in the spaces occupied by the signal and intelligence collectors. One of the boats was later identified as Israeli, and the hull number of the unit was noted as 206T. Some 50 minutes later, 2 Israeli helicopters arrived on the scene. None of the communications of the attacking aircraft and torpedo boats is available, but the intercepted conversations between helicopter pilots and the control tower at Hatzor near Tel Aviv leave little doubt that the Israelis failed to identify the Liberty as a U.S. ship before, during the attack. Control told helicopter A-15 at 3:31 p.m. that there is a warship there which we attacked. The men jumped into the water from it. You will try to rescue them. Although there were other references to a search for the men in the water, and although U.S. units later searched the area, no survivors were recovered from the sea, nor were there any indications that any of the 22 missing personnel from the Liberty have been lost overboard. A subsequent message from the control tower to the helicopter identified the ship as Egyptian and told the pilot to return home. Although the Liberty is some 200 feet longer than the Egyptian transport Al Qasir, it could have easily been mistaken for the latter vessel by an overzealous pilot. Both ships have similar hulls and arrangements of mast and stack. The weather was clear in the area of attack, and the Liberty's hull number, GTR-5, was prominently displayed, and an American flag was flying. The helicopter pilot was then urgently requested to identify the survivors as Egyptian or English-speaking, this being the first indication that the Israelis suspected they may have attacked a neutral ship. The helicopter pilot reported seeing an American flag on the Liberty. Another intercept between the unidentified Israeli controller and the helicopter number A-15. The pilot reported that the number GTR-5 was written on the ship's side. The controller told the pilot the number had no significance. Thus, it was not until 4:12 p.m. that the Israelis became convinced that the Liberty was American. This was about 44 minutes after the last attack on the ship, and the attack had apparently been called off, not because the ship had been identified, but because it seemed to be sinking. The U.S. defense attaché in the Tel Aviv reports that Israeli helicopters and the 3 torpedo boats searched the area until 6:04 p.m. The Israeli offer of assistance was declined because of the sensitive mission of the ship. According to U.S. Navy reports, the ship was saved only through efforts of her crew. So ultimately, they only stopped because it was sinking. It was done. This is Israel. Lyndon Johnson said, I don't give a damn. I don't care. Let them die. Does that give you any type of semblance of America first? That was from the CIA. Now, so we have that set as a precedent. They don't care that it was American. The Israelis, the ILF, I don't care if you're American. If you're on the side of the Palestinians, they got smoke for you too. And they know that the United States is not going to punish them for murdering one of our own. Here's one of the witnesses.
There were 2 shots fired from the rooftop. I've been doing this for 20 years. I know the difference in sound between tear gas, rubber-coated bullets, live ammunition. These were 2 separate shots of live ammunition, shot one after the other. The first one hit a metal object, and then a young man from the village in his thigh. And then I heard another shot. And then I heard people calling my name in English. I found her lying on the ground beside the tree, bleeding from her head. I put my hand under her head to try and stop the bleeding. I took her pulse. She had a very weak pulse. We called the ambulance. From there, we evacuated her to the village's medical center, where the doctor came into the ambulance and continued to the hospital, where they tried to resuscitate her, but failed.
تم محاولة إنقاذها لفترة زمنية الطبية، لكن للأسف لم يتم إنعاش القلب. لم نقدر على إنعاش القلب لبلاغة الإصابة، لأن الإصابة بليغة جدا، وتم إعلان حالة الوفاة.
What happened today is no accident. It is the continuation of the killing of 17 of Beta's residents during demonstrations since 2021. It is an intentional killing that is now receiving the light of day, receiving the light of day because she is an American citizen. It was an intentional killing.
If you were Aysenur's family, would you just accept allowing Israel to investigate a murder that they committed? Would you accept it if that was your daughter, your sister, your mom, your niece? Would you accept it? When you have something like this happen, and this isn't plastered all over the news, that means that corporate media is compromised. Your politicians are compromised. The corporate media is compromised. They don't ever want people to know about what actually went down. Aysenur, Eygi, U.S. response to Israeli killing of Turkish American draws sharp criticism. Statements so far from the administration differ from remarks that follow killings of Israeli Americans. Says the Biden administration has faced a stream of criticism over its response to U.S. killing of U.S. Turkish citizen Aysenur Eygi after it refrained from laying blame on Israel and calling the targeted killing tragic. Eygi was among a group of activists that were taking part in a demonstration against the expanding Israeli settlements in the Palestinian town of Beta on Friday when she was shot in the head. The eyewitnesses said that the protesters began treating shortly after Eygi was killed when soldiers fired tear gas into the crowd. 2 rounds of live ammunition were fired at the group, one of which struck Eygi in the head. When she was shot, she was standing there doing absolutely nothing with the other woman. It was a deliberate shot because they shot from a very, very, very far distance, said the eyewitness, who did not want to be identified. It was a deliberate shot to the head. Following the killing, the U.S. State Department said it would gather the information about her death and make the further comment at a later point. So, says the U.S. State Department immediate response to the ire of Palestinian Americans who accused the White House of treating the death of Israeli Americans with higher concern than other Americans killed by Israel. Rashida Tlaib said, "How did they die, Matt? Was it magic? Who or what killed Aysenur?" Palestinian American Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib said on X. Palestinian American analyst Omar Badr said it was likely Israel's killing would be met with few consequences. Quote, "We are about to get another demonstration of who can kill Americans with impunity." Here's what Omar said. He said the Israeli military killed an American in the West Bank. Her name is Aysenur Eygi. Remember when Hersh Goldberg Paulin was killed, Biden said Hamas leaders will pay for these crimes. We're about to get another demonstration of who can kill Americans with impunity. Brianna Joy Gray said Biden-Harris will let Americans be slaughtered with impunity as long as it's an Israeli bullet. So here's what President Joe Biden said. He said he was devastated and outraged over the death. He said, it is tragic as it is reprehensible. Make no mistake, Hamas leaders will pay for these crimes, and we will keep working around the clock for a deal to secure the release of the remaining hostages. So your death means nothing if it's at the hands of the Israelis. Means nothing to them. I want to go here as well. Let me see. I had a tweet I wanted to share as well. They do not care. And for those of you who are saying, right on, Jaybe, right on, but you support Trump, oh, he don't care no either. Thank you very much for this, comrade of RBN, Savvy Sabs. She said, Israel just killed an American activist in the West Bank, and Trump is worried about Israel being doomed. I don't care if Israel is doomed. They spent decades dooming Palestinians. Here's Donald Trump.
And if I don't win this election, Israel, with Comrade Kamala Harris at the helm of the United States, is doomed. Israel is doomed. That's a tough statement. Israel will be gone. 1 year, 2 years, Israel will no longer exist. I better win. Or you're going to have problems like we've never had. We may have no country left. It may be our last election. You want to know the truth? People have said that. This may be our last election. You got to get out and vote. This could be our last election. And if I don't win.
With all his bluster and with all his hyperbole, Donald Trump is compromised. Donald Trump is just as compromised as Kamala Harris. Donald Trump is a Zionist. Donald Trump is Israel first. So if any of you think, well, Donald Trump's going to be better than Kamala Harris, baby, no. Neither of them are. This is why we are post-duopoly here. Leave both parties. Because ultimately, they will sell you out. They will sell you down the river. My hope is Aysenur. I hope she gets justice, but that's going to mean part of the liberation for Palestinians. I hope it's soon, because it's too much. It's too much. Go ahead and give the stream a like. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And I hope you guys, appreciated that context of like, look, they've attacked Americans before, in 1967 in USS Liberty. They ain't got no qualms of doing it again. Look, if you are siding with the Palestinians, like, let's say those of you who are siding with the Palestinians, if you guys were dropped in the West Bank right now, protesting along with the Palestinians, the Israelis would see you as no different, and you would get got by them. It don't matter if you're an American citizen or not. They don't care, because your life means less to them. And mind you, this is all over land theft. Sickening. So let me go to some of the comments in the chat. Let me check to see if we have any Rumble rants first. And if so, then we'll get to those. If not, then I'll go to the rock bin. Looks like we're good there. Okay. All right. And then let me check on the rock bin side. Yep. All right. So this is all right. So let me go here. Thank you for the sip on Rockbin, Roger Meadows. The last week case study was on Nico's show. In that interview, he told us something that flew over everyone's head. The Leahy Act, named after former Vermont Senator Patrick Leahy, it says, quote, prohibits the U.S. Department of State Department of Defense from providing military assistance to foreign security force that violate human rights with impunity. Gross violations include extrajudicial killings, rape and sexual violence, enforced disappearance, and torture, end quote. Question, case, if you're watching, how come you just telling us about this now a year later? I'm going to have a word with you. Second, Congress broke their own law. Therefore, let's transition to protest to teach constituency, bringing their own congressmen and senators up on charges filed with the U.S. attorney and DOJ. Do not think of whether or not it will succeed. The purpose is to show strength that we're not effing around. We may not get all of them convicted and sentenced. Yes, some of them are going to bribe U.S. attorneys with, hey, if you want to rise in the party, you're going to have to not go all the way with this. But the presence of it, the coverage that we will get will be enough to scare them to stop weapons. That's a good point, Roger. That's a good point. Appreciate it. Devin, I'm going back to this, says you went to school with her and graduated from school. I go to earlier this year. A lot of my friends knew her well. I think I saw her at the encampment we did at school. That was just confirmed in the article. From what I heard, she was a very kind person and protested for Standing Rock and Black Lives Matter. She was in favor of escalation. Yeah. That's who they murdered. Someone who is for liberation. What the hell? I don't know what that was. What the heck was that? Oh, doesn't matter. So with that being said, let's continue. Thank you very much for that, Devin. If Katie Lewis says, Tentura is a chilling but very informative film, basically about the Nakba, worth a watch and free on YouTube. Thank you very much for that, Katie. Good to see you as well. Island Vibe says, JB, I'm so happy that you're dropping this truth bomb today. Look at how they killed our brother Fred Hampton. Look at how they killed MLK and Malcolm. They are the terrorists of the world. Thank you very much. Thank you for the sticker, super sticker, James Starks. Appreciate it. I saw another super chat. I want to make sure that I don't miss it. My apologies. Oh, here we go. Thank you for the super chat. Edwin says, Israel is imperialist America's landed aircraft carrier. Yeah, and that's something a lot of people don't think about. Israel is really just a tool of the West to keep tabs and to keep their stranglehold on the Middle East, on West Asia. That's all it really is. America does not care about, the U.S. government does not care about Jewish people. You are a tool for them in order to take hold of the resources, the land, and to suppress the people. That's what you are. That's what they see you as. Zionism is a tool by the West in order to extract resources out from West Asia, from out the area of the Arab nations. That's all Israel is. And so when people talk about, oh my God, Israel, they're puppeting the United States. They're the ones who are over everything. No. It is the corporate dictators, the parasites that are puppeting the United States and Israel. And they're using Israel as the means to extract the resources out of the region. Because they do not want another Mohammed Mossadegh. Because they don't want somebody who is in Iran, Afghanistan, Lebanon, Turkey, Jordan. They don't want anybody that actually will use those resources for the good of just the people. They want those resources to go to the corporations. And the corporations are the ones that actually are puppeting the United States and Israel. That's what it is. A lot of times people just do not realize that. They think it's something about, oh my God, will God promise us this land? No, baby. It's all about money. That's what it's been about. Saldivar says the early Zionists also thought about settling in Madagascar and Argentina. In fact, I've heard there is supposed Argentina backup plan if Israel collapses as a state. Interesting, because also a lot of Nazis actually ended up traveling to Argentina after World War II for refuge. Want to know why Argentina got a lot of white people there? It's a lot. Bender says all the war veterans that never receive help don't stay in their small towns. They go to places like LA to self-medicate and never receive help from the government. Out of sight, out of mind. Yep. Wonder how many veterans that were on USS Liberty right now that are unhoused or are suffering right now because the VA is severely underfunded. Why? Because the corporate parasitic puppets that are over our government that keep trying to kill the VA by death of 1,000 cuts. They don't care about our soldiers and our service members. They don't care about our veterans because they will squeeze the VA as much as they can to say, oh, we just got to save more money. We don't have enough money. Yet they still will pay billions upon billions upon billions to create more veterans. But your lives do not matter to them. Seven Sword Mary says, no different than the IOF Silence of the Lambs Hannibal Directive on October 7th. According to Haaretz, IDF officials gave the order to execute the Hannibal Directive in at least 3 places on October 7th. And yes, for anybody who doesn't know, the Hannibal Directive is basically a order given to if Palestinian resistance has hostages, it tells the Israeli military to kill the hostages so that there's no leverage. That's right. They kill their own. They kill their own in order to not have any leverage over them. Let me see, James Starks. Just making sure I don't miss any other. If I missed your super chat, please let me know in the comments. I'm sorry. But I'm just trying to make sure I get those before I move on to the next segment. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so let me go. Hang on. Okay, yeah, just wanted to make sure. All right, so let's go to the next subject. So we're going to talk about Kroger. And we're going to talk about Kroger. We're going to talk about inflation. Because you know what? These some horrible people. Oh, you know what? These some horrible people that are in these boardrooms. There are some horrible people who are over these companies and corporations. I'm telling you, I am sick and tired of these people. Because ultimately, all they want is higher dividend checks and they want to own you. That's it. I am sick and tired of these people. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I have never been to Kroger. I'm going to tell you why. There's none close to me. Okay. Whenever I hear, oh, I shop at Kroger, first of all, I think, well, is that where white people shop? Because ultimately, like, there's no Kroger near me. There's no Kroger in the hood. If there's a Kroger where you live, and if you live in the hood, that's interesting to me because I just don't see them. But the thing is, it's like, I know of Kroger even though I've never been to their stores. Apparently, Kroger has been artificially inflating their prices. And of course, they also want to do a huge merger. So let's go over this. So let's go here. Oh, no, that's not the one. It's the other one, Jaybe. Here we go. Says exclusive. Leak memo reveals Kroger executives knew for years that most workers live. Most workers live in poverty. We'll go back to that. Where is the article that I had? Oh, it's right there. Duh. But that also feeds into what I wanted to share with you guys. Okay, here we are. Sorry about that. I keep going into the wrong one. All right. Jaybe got it. During antitrust trial, executives admit Kroger jacked up milk and egg prices above inflation. Quote, the thing is, executives all over the economy were seeing this stuff on their earning calls back in 2021. This is not a secret. So it says the top Kroger executive admitted under questioning from a Federal Trade Commission attorney on Tuesday that the grocery chain raised its egg and milk prices above the rate of inflation, a concession that came as no surprise to economists who have been highlighting corporate price gouging across the U.S. economy in recent years. Andy Groff, Kroger's senior director for pricing, said during a court hearing for the Federal Trade Commission's legal challenge to the company proposed acquisition of Albertsons, its primary competitor, that Kroger's objective is to pass through our inflation to consumers. Groff's comment came in response to questioning about the internal email he sent to Kroger executives in March. In that note, Groff observed that on milk and eggs, retail inflation has been significantly higher than cost inflation. A Kroger spokesman told Bloomberg in that statement that the email was cherry-picked and does not reflect Kroger's decades-long business model to lower prices for customers by reducing its margins. But Rakin Mahmoud, chief economist at the Groundwork Collaborative, noted Wednesday that executives all over the economy were saying this stuff on their earnings calls back in 2021, that this was not a secret. So this Rakin Mahmoud shared this tweet. So Bloomberg reported Tuesday that in Illinois, where Kroger operates the Mariano's chain, company executives created a weekly report on egg prices, comparing prices from Walmart, Meijer, Corporate, and Albertsons. Joel Esco, said Matthew Marks, interesting last name, president of Kroger division overseeing Mariano's. The Federal Trade Commission walked Marks through several of the weekly egg reports from 2022 and 2023. In May of 2022, the example, both Walmart and Meijer dropped egg prices by 14 cents a dozen, but Mariano's opted to keep its pricing to the same to match the higher price at Joel Esco, Mark said. A year later, in April of 2023, as egg prices again soared, Mariano's opted to keep its own pricing near Joel Esco's, even as Walmart was lowering its own. The U.S. grocery sector, dominated by Kroger, Walmart, and a handful of other major companies, profited hugely during the COVID-19 pandemic as corporate giants exploited supply chain disruptions to aggressively jack up prices. The grocery industry, as represented by its four largest players, became more profitable in the pandemic, and it has stayed that way for a couple of years at least. It is a good guess that price increases in excess of cost increases have played a role in this. In its legal challenge against Kroger's proposed merger with Albertsons, the Federal Trade Commission argued that the deal would further drive up costs for consumers by eliminating fierce competition between the two grocers. Laura Kilgore, research manager at the American Economic Liberties Project, said after opening arguments that the case earlier this week that the FTC previewed concrete evidence that Kroger-Albertsons merger would lead to higher prices for millions of Americans and worse working conditions for hundreds of thousands of workers. So, this is all true. Now, they always talk about, well, capitalism breeds competition. But what happens when one side of the competition eats the other side of the competition? When there's no competition, then how is that going to breed savings? If the company keeps growing and growing and growing to the point where it eats the other, and then you have no more competition, then the prices start doing what? Up, 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 up. And there's no competition to go up against them to go, well, no, we're going to keep you in check. See, this is monopolization. So this is how they operate. And the thing is, somebody can come in and go, well, no, that's not capitalism. That's just cronyism. Baby, that's like saying, oh, that's not potatoes. Those are just potato chips. Ultimately, it's still the same thing. Maybe some heat and some oil applied, but the results are still the same. At its base, it's still the same thing. And so what they do is, once you get to the highest market share that you can get, the only way to increase your year over year profits is to eat the competition, which is called monopolization. And guess what? You may have 100 different national brands, but then over the years, as one brand gets bigger, it eats the rest of the competition. So then it goes from 100 brands to 75 brands, to 50 brands, to 25 brands, and now you only got, 5 different national chains. Because they ate the rest of the competition. Because they reached the highest that they could in market share. And so then they ate the competition, meaning that, yeah, the dividend checks got bigger. Yeah, they've got to open up more stores, but also because they have less competition. Guess what? The quality of the stores goes down. The pay goes down. So really, is capitalism really breeding better competition? Is capitalism really breeding innovation? Nah, that's not what it does. Capitalism facilitates greed. This is why companies like Kroger, they're just like with Tempur Sealy. I talked about this on a few weeks ago. Tempur Sealy is trying to buy Mattress Firm for what? $4 trillion, something like that. Tempur Sealy is trying to eat up Mattress Firm so that they can have more of a higher market share. All these companies, that's what they do. So it says, by contrast, lawyers for Kroger and Albertsons touted fake promises of utopian outcomes that are not legally enforceable. Indeed, Albertsons has a track record of profiting from similar fake promises that turn out disastrously for competition and for communities. And this time is no different. At this time, when working families are especially concerned with costs of access to food, we need more, not less, competition between grocery stores on prices, wages, the freshness of produce, and service quality. See, that's the thing. Quality goes out the window when there's no competition. So when capitalists say, oh, well, this breeds, we need capitalism in order for competition. No, because the thing is, these corporations, what they're going to do is that they're going to lobby Congress. They're going to bribe your politicians so that they can continue to keep growing without any antitrust laws being applied to them. So they get so big and they eat so up the competition that everything falls apart when it comes to, your prices that you want to pay for your goods, right? The service that is applied in stores, that goes out the window because they really don't care. Because if you have no other place to go, then guess what? You're stuck with them. That's honestly how it works. They want you to be stuck with them so that they don't have to pay attention to the service that they provide, to the prices, because there's no competitive prices if there's no competition. Because they ate the competition. You have no other place to go. You're stuck. So that was that. And also, let me go to this. Now, when it comes to the lack of competition, the lack of, I remember where I was at. When it comes to lack of competition, where it comes to the lack of goods and services that breeds something better for not just consumers but workers, there is a point where the workers start to suffer, because if there's no competition when it comes to pay as well, then it doesn't help workers either. I want to share this as well because I think this is also extremely important. I had it up and then I think I accidentally closed it. So let me go here. Here we go. So here is a Kroger worker that is homeless.
Can you tell me what your dream is in life?
My dream.
It's okay.
I need some housing, affordable housing. I'm staying at the women's shelter.
What is something you're praying for?
The streets.
How do you get between here and the shed?
I walk down the street. I take my time because, it's hot out there.
How long have you been in the shelter?
Oh, this is the third trip.
Sonia is an elderly lady I met yesterday at Kroger. She told me that at the homeless shelter, she has to sleep on the floor on a little mat. Affordable housing in Nashville is about $1,000 a month. Let's try to raise enough money to get her housing for at least a year. Click the link in my.
So this is what's going on with workers. The fact is that when you talk about, oh my God, well, this will be better for workers. No, it's not. Because the thing is that when you have a huge market share when it comes to workers, you don't have to pay workers diddly squat. Because where are they going to go? Like when it comes to consumers, it's like, okay, this is the biggest game in town. There's no other place we can shop for our food. But guess what? It's the same thing for workers. This is the only game in town where we can actually go to work. So therefore, we're stuck. And then it's like, well, we want better pay. Well, good luck trying to find it because we're not going to give it to you. Who else are you going to go to? Isn't that what Walmart does? Isn't that what Amazon does? Where else are you going to go? Yep. That's how they do it. And so now that brings me to the other article that I wanted to go to. So this one says, exclusive leak memo reveals Kroger executives knew for years that most workers live in poverty. So this is 2 years ago. There's an explosive new document obtained by More Perfect Union reveals that supermarket giant Kroger has long been aware that its workers can't afford basic necessities to struggle to survive. But how would this merger actually help them? It's not. A merger between Kroger and Albertsons is not going to help anybody. And a merger means that Kroger had a lot of money saved up in order to be able to buy Albertsons, which means that's money that they didn't pay to workers. That's why you have people like that lady that's literally living in a shelter and working 4 days a week at Kroger. So then what? Oh my goodness, if they're living out on the street, they need to get a job. They do have a job. Oh, well, they just need to apply themselves and work hard. They do work hard. And yet they still don't have a place to live. So when people like me say we need a housing first and housing for all policy so that everybody is housed, then guess what? Oh, well, we don't want people to get something for nothing. Guess what? They're doing something and they're still getting nothing. What is the answer for that? And these are the same people that'll be wearing these $5,000 Italian suits and sitting on these boards at Kroger. That the internal presentation titled The State of the Associate and marked confidential warned Kroger executives in 2018 that hundreds of thousands of employees live in poverty and rely on food stamps and other public aid as a result of the company's low pay. This is just like Walmart. It says most employees are considered to be living in poverty and need state aid, as in food stamps, free school lunch, etc., just to get by. The presentation is prepped with quotes from unnamed employees that foretell an internal labor uprising that will come a few years later. Something is wrong when the people who are actually making this company profitable are the ones deepest in poverty. I literally work at a grocery store and can't afford to eat regularly. And sure, pay us what we are worth. We know you can afford it. Yes, they know that they can afford it. Why? Because they're trying to buy Albertsons. That's how you know they have the money. Record profits, y'all got it. And guess what? The hungry are coming for you. The hungry are going to come for you so hard. What did Catwoman say in The Dark Knight Rises to Bruce Wayne? They're coming for you because you chose to live so large and leave so little for the rest of us. Oh, it's coming. Jeff Bezos, they're coming for you. Elon Musk, they're coming for you. Oh, the hungry are going to tear that door down. Because you live so large and you left so little for the rest of us. This is why they're building cop cities. This is why Trump and Harris are so for the cop cities, because they're the puppets. They're the puppets of these corporate parasites, because they know that once you get to the point where you get so hungry that you're willing to do anything to get that meal, guess what? They're going to have their goons with badges and guns ready to bash your heads in and say, if you actually want something, you need to be willing to be exploited even further for that. But you're still out on the street. You're still homeless. With $4 billion in projected profits in 2021, Kroger is America's largest grocery chain, overseeing 16 brands, including Ralph's, Foods for Less, Fred Mayer, CEO Rodney McMullen made $22 million in 2020, more than 900 times that much of the median worker. Kroger has one of the largest CEO worker pay gaps of any major U.S. company. Kroger representatives did not respond to requests for comment. Presentation found that at least 1 in 5 Kroger associates were on food stamps, including at least 25% of very loyal associates who frequently shop at Kroger stores. It said low wages were cited by 27% of workers who quit the company. Look at this. And guess who pays for workers not making enough in Kroger? It's us. Our federal dollars are literally going to feed Kroger employees. Our federal dollars do this. Instead of paying them a living wage, they don't want to do it. They're actually forcing us to have to pay for it. Now, as a communist, I don't mind making sure that everybody gets fed. That's fine. But I also do not want to supplement the money of corporate parasites. I do not want to supplement these morally repugnant people and their dividend checks. That's not right. I want the exploitation to end. We should not have to fund or backstop their exploitation. So that's what's going on in Kroger. Now, let me share this as well. I want to make sure I get out of here on time. This also says we uncovered corporate price gouging conspiracy. It's not just Kroger. It's Purdue. It's Tyson Chicken. It's Sanderson Farms. And I talked about this. It says huge corporations are colluding to raise chicken prices up 61% over the last 15 years. And this talks about how Washington State is trying to break up these monopolies. But the thing is that, and I talked about this a couple months ago, how chicken prices, right? Of course, we talk about milk and eggs with Kroger, but these chicken prices are going through the roof too, because these chicken producers, the Cargills and the Tyson Foods and the Purdue, they are keeping prices artificially inflated too. So they're no different than companies like RealPage, right? That are keeping our prices overly inflated so that they can make more money off of our backs. This is why we talk about systemic change. This is why we talk about doing mutual aid to circumvent what these corporate parasites are doing. They're literally squeezing us dry. You know, whenever we want to have something like eggs or milk, you know, what we use in our homes, you're squeezing us dry for it. And it's horrible. And so this is actually out of the FTC that I also wanted to share with you as well. The FTC even talked about this. This is from the Federal Trade Commission. FTC releases report on grocery supply chain disruptions. Says pandemic-induced disruptions disproportionately impacted smaller firms as larger companies sought to protect market share. Power, says the FTC, today issued a report that causes behind grocery supply chain disruptions resulted from the pandemic. The report revealed that large market participants accelerated and distorted the negative effects associated with supply chain disruptions. The FTC's report also examined how supply chain disruptions affected competition among retailers, wholesalers, and producers, as well as the impacts on consumers and businesses. The report found that consumers felt the negative effects of supply chain disruptions in the form of skyrocketing prices from groceries and product shortages for essentials like toilet paper. Notably, consumers are still facing the negative impacts of the pandemic's price hikes, as the Commission report finds that some of the groceries retail industry seem to have used rising costs as an opportunity to further raise prices to increase their profits, which remain elevated today. As the report explains, supply chain disruptions do not equally impact every retailer, wholesaler, or producer. Instead, smaller firms, especially smaller grocery retailers, disproportionately face difficulties obtaining products compared to larger firms. Some larger firms were better able to protect their product supply compared to smaller competitors. The pandemic also prompted some larger firms to consider buying manufacturing suppliers, which potentially threatened to make certain supply chains even more concentrated in the future. Taken together, the report findings reveal how supply chain bottlenecks can leave markets exposed to major supply chain shocks, and that those shocks in turn can allow for major firms to entrench their dominance. So, this just goes to show the greed goes all the way to the top. So, I say this. When it comes to these corporations, this is why we're trying to build dual power, because they will not stop for nothing. They will starve you to death to make a nickel. This is why we talk about organizing. If you know people who are building a community farm or a community garden, collaborate with them. You got a backyard, even if it's a small backyard, even if you can take some 5-gallon buckets and plant some stuff and share among your neighbors. If you know of ways that you can circumvent in order to help your neighbors so that we can sidestep this system in order to help everybody else so that we don't need these corporations anymore, then by all means do it. Get together with your neighbors, help them, and you help yourself. Because ultimately, you're going to have these companies like these Krogers, these Amazons, these Microsofts, these Apples, these SpaceX and Teslas. They're going to continue to keep wringing our necks and squeezing us dry until there's nothing left, until there's no planet left. Yeah. That's really, that's what really needs to happen. We got to fight somehow against them. And so they know that you're in poverty and they don't care. It's up to us to care, and it's up to us to take that power away from them. We can do it. We just have to come together and stop being so divided. Thank you very much for liking the video if you have not already. If you have already, thank you very much for that. Yes, Kat. Worker cooperatives must take over. Yes. I would love to see Kroger turn into a worker co-op. That would be awesome. Christy says Elaine Chao is on the board, not making this up. Wow, man. Wow. Let me see. Chima says food workers are often blamed for their conditions. Yeah, and ultimately, it's not their fault. It is the people at the top. They are the ones. Like when they say that the CEO has a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders, that means that their job is to make higher profits year over year by law. If they do not make profits year over year by law, or if they refuse to try to make more profits year over year by law, let's say hypothetically, you're a CEO of a company, but you don't want to increase the profits because then that will squeeze your workers and your consumers more, then guess what? The board has a right to fire you by law. You are literally that's the law. See, this is what happens when corporations actually write the laws, because now you're literally breaking the law if you don't increase profits year over year. It's crazy. Even though it will harm the workers, harm the citizens, that's how corporate America works. Oh yeah, I saw this. I should have brought this up too. Russian Bear says, see that lady that died on the job at Wells Fargo and not found in 4 days. Uniquely American. Yeah, a lady who was working in Wells Fargo in a cubicle died, and they did not know about it until 4 days later. They don't care about y'all. This is why we talk about organizing. Because we care about each other. We just have to do it. And the thing is, when people talk about, oh, we need affordable housing. Affordable for whom? Affordability is subjective. We need housing for all. I don't care if you're a lazy bum who doesn't do anything at all. You still deserve housing. I don't care. Look, call me all you want. That's exactly what I am. Call me that. I don't care. You deserve housing just because. Just because. Chatter X says, well, I like that antiwar.com says, and when the corporations become even bigger, remember the term too big to fail, they can influence governments, forcing it to bail them out with the tax money collected from working people. Yeah. So then what? They can't collapse because we feed people. You know what? It's not even them that feeds people. It's the farmers that do. And who gets squeezed dry? It's the farmers too. I'm not yelling at you, Chatter X. I'm just, this stuff just pisses me off, man. And I understand what you're saying, Russian Bear, but not everybody has that opportunity. Like, in order for me to go to a health food grocery store, I would literally have to go out of my way. By the way, I don't have transportation. I don't. And so what do you expect me to do? Because guess what? The closest things to me are this little corner store right here, which have no health food. This little corner store right here, which is a block away, has no healthy food. Then a couple of blocks over there is a grocery store, but it's just your run-of-the-mill grocery store. It's not a health food grocery store. Then there's a Walmart over there. That's it. So there are no farmers markets near me. What do you expect me to do? I live in the hood. So it is not feasible for everybody. And a lot of times we feel like we're helping, or we're trying to help by saying just go to these grocery stores. But a lot of us who are, either living in the hood or we live in a rural community, we don't have that access. We just don't. You know, I would love to be able to just go to the farmer's market. But at the same time, it's like, even if I get a ride with my mom, guess what? I have to put gas in the car. You know what I'm saying? And what if I don't have money for gas? She ain't got money for gas. I ain't got money for gas. And guess what? I guess we ain't going nowhere. Or I guess we have to go to the closest place that we can go to, which is the Walmart. That's just how it is. And we're fortunate because we at least have some wheel, even though her car is 20 years old, even though, you know, fortunately, I can ride with her to the nearest Walmart. But a lot of people don't have that because people are working 40, 50, and 60 hours a week, and they don't even have transportation. They have to jump on the bus. And then you have to make up at least 2 hours, you know, to be able to go to the bus stop, in the heat, wait for the bus. Then you take the bus, and it takes an hour just to go where it would take you, what, 10, 15 minutes by car to get to where you need to go. Then you're outside. You have to walk to the bus to where you can go. Then you have to go to the grocery store. You got to spend about a good hour and a half to 2 hours in the grocery store because you can't just jump on the bus every other day to go to the grocery store. You have to get knocked all that stuff out at one time. Then by the time you finish going to the grocery store, then you have to go to the bus stop with all your bags, then jump on the bus. Then once you get on the bus, then you have to wait about an hour just to get 15 minutes away to get to your bus stop to go home. What if it rains, by the way? So now you're stuck outside, you know, in the rain trying to carry all your bags to get to where you need to go. Then you get home. And then how much time do you have? Because if it would have took you, what, 2.5 hours if you had a car, it's going to take you about 4.5, maybe 5 hours to jump on the bus, get to the grocery store, do your shopping, then jump back on the bus, and then come home. So you actually literally have less time as well. So your time is also constrained. So that's the thing. And unfortunately, some people just don't realize that, or they haven't been in that position for so long to the point where it's like, oh, wow, you know, you got all this you got to worry about too. And so it's tough, man. And that's the thing is like, and I'm not coming after you at all. I'm just explaining the scenario of what people in my position have to go through in order to just be able to get food. Just in order to be able to get some apples and some oranges and some bananas. In order to be able to get a bag of lettuce. You know what I'm saying? Or some spinach. We have to go through that. And then on top of it, it's actually cheaper just to go down the street to the Wendy's and get a $5 biggie bag with unhealthy food than it is to spend $5 on a couple of bags of spinach, which aren't necessarily going to fill you up. That's why I'm talking about organizing. That's why we're talking about coming together as a community. Because it's unsustainable and it's killing us. Raul says quality is cut even with competition because of lobbying. Yeah. Terry Hinton says we might as well be vegetarians with these prices of meat. But that's the thing, baby. They're doing the same thing to our veggies. Our vegetable prices are skyrocketing too. The prices for rice and pasta are going up. You're spending more on ramen noodles. Ramen noodles you can't even save money on. And that's unhealthy as hell. But you have no choice. Because you need something that's going to fill you up. I'm frustrated, man. Noah says, you're a fantastic newscaster, best in the business. It looks like Publix and Winco are employee-owned. I like to support employee-owned businesses. Hang on. They're not employee owned necessarily. Okay. You can have stock in the company, but that doesn't mean it's actually employee ran. Okay. They're not a co-op. So when it comes to companies like Publix and Winco, oh, they can kick rocks too. Okay. Because do the employees have a democratic say on how the company is run? And places like Publix and Winco, no, they don't. When it comes to actual profit sharing, no, they do not actually share the profits. It goes into your employee like retirement or something like that, and that's pretty much it. It's like you don't actually get the profits in real time, or like for instance, at the end of the year with like a company like that's like a co-op or actual worker co-op. So we got to be careful with these companies that say, oh, they're employee owned. It's like the employees have stock options within the company, but that's not necessarily the same, right? And employees do not have a democratic say in how the company is run. So, and I talked about the differences between them. So, you know, they'll try to trick you with, oh, the employees are part owners. No. Not really. No. But I get what you're saying, you know, and thank you. But Publix and companies like that, no, they're not employee owned. They have employees are able to, you know, have stock within the company. But when it comes to how the company is ran, it's all based at the top. It's still a capitalist corporation. Yeah. Hillary says not everyone can take a bus because of health reasons. Misfit market delivers but doesn't take food stamps. Yeah. Who can take food stamps? Not everybody has that either. All right. So let me make sure I didn't miss any super chats. Oh, thank goodness I looked. Andrea says we need to be all about communal living again, like we did in the 60s and 70s. They lose their power on us if we control our own food. We need to help each other. I agree with the sentiment. But the thing is like, it's just like the people who, and I'm not trying to discount what you're saying. The issue is that there are people who are able to go out and live off the grid. That's actually a privilege. And it's like you can do that yourself or get together with a group of people and do that. But the problem is like, what about everybody else? The thing is like you're able to separate yourself out of the system. And so, yeah, you're able to do that. But what about the other people who can't? And so this is why it's important for us to organize to change the system itself, not to take ourselves out of the system, but to change the system so that we don't even have to get out of it. I think that's the point, right? Because the thing is, it's like you can get yourself out of the system, but the system is always going to be there. That's the tough part. And so, you know, this is why organizing to change the system fundamentally, that's is what we advocate for the most. Chima says, food is meant for sustenance for everyday people. In this capitalist white supremacist system, it is used for both profiteering and class separation. Okay. Thank you very much for that. It sucks, but we gotta fight. We gotta fight. All right, so I'm gonna head on out. I don't think I missed any super chats. I'm just trying to make sure, and I'm gonna check the Rockfin one more time before I head out. I want to make sure. Also, by the way, if you own your own property and you can, have your own like farm or just, your own garden, have you ever considered having your own chickens? Just a thought. You guys can raise your own chickens too. That could probably help out. I think that'd be pretty cool. Unfortunately, I live in an apartment, so I can't have chickens. I think we're good. Yeah, we're good. All right. So, with that being said, I'm going to head on out. I am running late. Sorry, guys. I have a meeting. But look, like I always say, water your plants, water yourselves. Do all the things if you got them and leave the world better than you found them. And do not allow yourself to be swayed by people who are compromised by settler colonialism. Do not allow yourself to be swayed by this system who constantly tells you that, oh, well, the GDP is up and food prices are down and all this other stuff. Don't allow yourself to be swayed by these corporate parasites who constantly try to make you think that everything's going good because you have a Democrat in office. You see, Hepcar says, suddenly everything at the grocery store says Kroger on it. Best breeds monopoly and less choices. It's like 1984. Everything will be one brand. Victory Gin. Yeah, of course. Roger says, James, all the time I kept talking about a right of first refusal law or Amendment CBI applied to companies. When the owner decides they wish to give up their company and workers should have the opportunity to purchase the company. All this time I kept saying refusal when I meant offer. Both are good, but offer is better. Here is the difference. So yeah, right of first offer versus first refusal, or it gives them the right to refuse, if they wish. But yeah, this isn't too long, so let's go over this. Thank you very much for this, Roger. Let's see.
Our question today is, Michael, what is the difference between a right of first refusal and a right of first offer? Okay, these are typically terms used in a lease where maybe there's some adjoining space next to your space and you'd like to have the right of first offer, meaning if that space comes available, that you get an opportunity to work out a transaction, a lease on that space before it hits the market. That would be a right of first offer. A right of first refusal would be, okay, they can put the property on the market. If they get an offer to lease it, then you have the opportunity to come in and match that offer. It also could be a right of first refusal can also be in a lease referring to your option to buy the property, right? So you might have a right of first refusal when somebody comes to buy the property and you're a tenant and you have the right to match that offer to buy. Typically, those are great for tenants. And typically, they are not very good for landlords. Enjoy and prosper.
The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought.
So, thank you very much. So, right of first offer. I actually like that. Actually sounds nicer, by the way. Just, me being silly, but it actually sounds nicer when you hear a right of first offer. So, thank you very much for that. Let me see. Denver Attaway says the nicknames for Kroger I have is the Crowbar. It has bar inside and slots when you can get money, but don't win money. You win credits for the grocery store and the Murder Kroger and ATL Kroger. Let me see. Oh, Model Corporate Charter Revocation Act. Okay. I will share this into the chat, Roger, because I am very, very late. And then freespeech.org, challenging claims of corporate rights. Okay. That's cool. And then also, Roger says, thank you very much for this tip. Now you see why it's pointless to focus your ire at the CEO. As Professor Wolf said, the CEO is appointed by the board of directors, who are appointed by the shareholders, with who's holding majority shares in the company having the biggest say. Also, check out the non-paid messages I sent. Sorry, Jane, trying to conserve money. Okay. So yeah, I can take a look at these later. I can't do it right now because I am very late for the meeting. But yes. All right. So I'm going to head on out. I got to get going. But thank you very much to everybody. And thank you for this. Got that already. Okay, so going to head on out. Thank you very much to everybody for tuning in. Do all the things if you got them, like I said. And I will see you guys in the next one. Be sure to tune in to me on Tuesday for my show for the Jaybe Font channel. And that's also linked in the description down below. So I'll see you when I see you guys. Mwah, forehead kisses. Have a wonderful day.